Okay, here we are. Alt.nerd.obsessive. Worst episode ever.
Hey everybody, welcome to Worst Episode Ever, a podcast for people who love The Simpsons by people who love The Simpsons about how much we hate The Simpsons. We're here trying to find which is the worst episode ever. And as always, my name is Dan.
And as always, my name is Jack.
And today we are going to be watching an episode from season 14 of The Simpsons. It is called Helter Shelter, originally aired December of 2002. Jack, have you seen this one?
I have seen this one. I'm kind of surprised it's 2002, so I caught it in syndication. I wasn't watching TV at the time, but
Really?
I remember it being
we
a
were
lot
watching
newer.
it live. We were in high school. Oh no, we weren't in high school.
No, we were in
college.
We were in the college.
Oh, you're right.
And,
Okay, so I probably have not
was too
seen
cool for
this
school
one.
freshman year. I didn't watch any TV.
Yeah.
It was It was the perfect storm of Arrested Development and Lost, and my roommate having a TiVo that got me back into TV after
Hell
like
yeah.
a hiatus of.
Those are two good shows
no
to bring
TV.
you back.
But anyway, what I was saying is, I remember, I must have caught it in syndication. I always remember this episode as feeling like a newer one. I'm like kind of season 14 is that's Purgatorio. That's practically classic era down there.
Well, compared to season 23 or whatever.
Chronologically.
Right.
Yeah, no, I remember this feeling like a newer episode. So I'm curious. I haven't seen it in years.
Okay, I thought maybe I did see it when it first aired, but if it was that season, yeah, I've not seen this episode. I've never seen this episode, so I don't know what it is. It has something to do with the shelter, and maybe it has to do with the Helter. I don't know.
I don't know what Helter is.
I don't know what Helter is
the Charles
either.
Manson, the Beatles, and I don't know what it actually is.
Well, maybe we'll find out by the end of this podcast.
maybe not. Maybe let's just
Hashtag,
talk.
what's that Helter?
Talk for an hour about how we don't know what it is.
All right, starting right now. I don't know what
Helter is. What is it?
I don't know. Do you know?
Let us know in the subreddit.
All right.
I don't know.
Hey, well, since you brought it up, that's a great thing to mention. The subreddit has been pretty popular so far. A lot of interesting stuff. If you're not a Reddit user, it's reddit.com/r/worst episode ever, so that's cool. And while you're checking that out, why don't you check out our website? It's wepodcast.com. And when you're there, you can click through our Amazon links and help us keep the show free. All you have to do is click our banners, click the links that say Amazon, and shop like you normally would shop.
Yeah,
And,
buy
that
some
helps us out.
Helters. I'm
Buy some
assuming that's
Helters
something
for
you
your
can buy.
shelters.
Yeah, actually buy a shelter. Those are very, very costly, and we
Yes.
get a nice little commission.
You
on
know,
that.
the bomb might be coming.
It's coming.
When President Trump takes over,
Yeah.
buy your shelters.
You want to get your shelters now for the Trump
Because
presidency.
there's going to be a rush, so please click through on Amazon.
And then who knows? Maybe you'll just be trapped down there with Christopher Walken for 40 years, and you come out to a weird new future.
For a second, I don't understand what you're doing, because I've never seen that movie. Blast from the Past, I'm
Yes.
assuming. Yeah, okay. So we're going to watch Blast from the Past.
We're going to tell you what it's about.
We're going to talk all about it, but then after that, we'll watch The Simpsons. No, we're going to watch Helter Shelter right now. If you haven't seen it, you can watch it on simpsonsworld.com. It's on DVD, so maybe buy the DVDs through Amazon, buy it digitally, whatever you got to do. We're going to watch Helter Shelter, and you should too.
I like what I'm seeing in there.
Don't shoot! I'll teach you to whistle on the Sabbath!
They go to pieces over nothing. They're perfect for reality TV.
So, that was Helter Shelter.
It certainly was, and we forgot to mention who suggested this episode. A couple of listeners suggested it. We had Jacob McGuire suggested this one. Greg, I don't know if it's the Greg, after which all other Gregs came, but thank you, Greg. And Brent Augustine also suggested this episode. So thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys, for
Making us sit through that.
And before we get into the episode, you're probably wondering what that maniacal laugh just was. So let's...
The Joker in studio today.
you know, because it says damage on his forehead.
That's exactly right.
Tattooed.
He also murders people for fun. He'll fit it right in here.
So let's introduce our guest who you're hearing in the background there. Please welcome Nick Zurko.
I'm pleased to be here,
Hi,
gentlemen.
Nick.
Hey, Nick.
So Nick is a writer, among other things. You've got
What those things are, I don't really know. I do other things. I black out a lot of the time.
He walks, he talks. Sometimes he breathes, sometimes he's eating.
You're working on a comic book right now.
I'm working on a comic book right now.
So when that's finally out, maybe we'll have you on again and we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'll be doing my promotional tour. You know, I have a bunch of press junkets set up, and I'm excited.
Yes.
It almost sounds like we have a real guest.
Yeah, almost.
Almost.
Just people we find outside.
Because I'm not real.
That was really condescending of me. I'm sorry.
I was actually just making a sci-fi joke in my head, so I didn't pick up on that
Don't
at all.
bother telling us. Let's just all just make jokes in our head.
Nick's a hologram.
Oh, I
so
see.
funny.
Now I get it.
Yeah, that is.
so besides you being a very creative and talented writer, you've also basically when I first started the podcast almost a year ago, when we started the podcast almost a year ago, I brought it up to you, and you mentioned that you had just recently watched every single Simpsons episode in a row for the second time.
Yes. Yeah.
So-
Well, not in a row.
That's dedication.
You know, you got to be truthful here, and I watched it non-linear. You know, in a non-linear fashion. I think it was up through season 17 at that point.
Wow.
Watched all of them twice.
So what did you? I'm curious. I kind of want to try it too. I just don't have the time. But like, do you see the steady? Like, how does that affect your take on the Simpsons? Does it give you a different view of the post-classic episodes?
Absolutely. I am much more forgiving to the post-classic. Well, I mean, first of all, I take a huge issue with the whole classic post-classic delineation.
Interesting.
Line in the
Okay.
sand.
Okay.
Line in the sand.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's irrelevant. I mean, there is it's very clear that there is two different periods.
Yeah.
Or there's five or six different periods.
Yeah,
you could argue.
right now what we would say is there's the Paradiso classic era, then the Helter Shelter I would say would be from the Purgatorio, and then there's the Dante's Inferno of just awful new episodes.
Mostly the HD ones.
Yeah, but that's
But I thought, we'll get back to
subjective.
Helter Shelter later. Yeah, it's more, you start to you stop crapping on the episodes so hard. It takes a really bad episode for you to just be like, wow, this show's really testing me. You're more just like looking for, the random 5 to 7 good jokes that happen in an episode at that point.
So are you saying you earned empathy for the show, or you were just desensitized to the shit?
I think a little bit of both.
Okay.
Interesting.
Honestly, a little bit of both.
Do you see if so?
I'm a sociopath, so I can do both.
Join the club. So you're just saying that you're not really up for dividing it up into
asking
eras.
for me, if there was
but-
a moment when The Simpsons died, I can tell you that. Yes.
Yeah.
The Mel Gibson episode.
Oh, wow.
Really? That's
Yes.
actually pretty early because that's season 11.
And that's
Yes, it
one
was.
that's one I actually really like.
Yeah, same. I also like that
I
one.
loathe that episode.
Wow.
And I mean, I watched it again recently. Well, it's like 10. I watched it a few times.
You've watched it at least 2 times.
Yeah. But it was funnier than I remembered. But I remember when I was a kid watching that live, and that show just put me over the edge. I was like, The Simpsons lost it. They're dead. They're over. I was a very I was a special 14-year-old worrying about issues of canon with The Simpsons at age 14. But
This is important stuff, Mom.
You're fit right in here.
I just remember that episode, just how jerky it was, disjointed. I was like, this is not. I mean, we had the principle of the pauper at that point, and I know you guys are also sympathetic to that episode. I still am not.
Relatively.
I gotta say.
It's still a very funny episode, I think.
It's
is what
funny,
what we would say.
Yes. But I remember seeing that when it aired, and being kind of like, but then you didn't get any more, and then that episode happened, and
You
that's when I was
gasped
like,
like a Victorian woman.
You're
Touch of the vapors!
oh my,
I'm here in Victorian England!
but I'm a Southern Belle.
Oh dear! That's why I'm so confused!
I'm so confused. The vapors. So yeah, but
I have to go on the internet and research what's happened.
I'm from the future. We're aliens.
I'm just a hologram.
I'm slowly turning into humans.
Did someone call for me? I'll come in from this bus stop. I'm gonna leave now.
you guys lost me 2 minutes ago.
We lost everyone 2 minutes ago.
We lost everyone 20 episodes ago. So, finally, last question.
Yeah.
So you say Mel Gibson one was kind of a line in the sand for you. Has it been kind of a straight downward slope, or would you say that there was some seasons where suddenly it looked like it was getting good again and then fell
No,
off?
it's all kind of. I mean, it's just been operating at a lower level for the past 15 years. But there's just spikes every now and then. I still watch the show weekly. I watch every new episode that comes out.
Really? Wow.
Yes, on Hulu, as Bart instructs you to do in episode 24, Midsummer's Night Feet, whatever it's called.
Oh, wow.
All right.
No.
I don't know that one.
Yeah, he literally says to the audience, like, you'll see me tomorrow on Hulu.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
And I'm like, he's talking to me. My life is pathetic.
He was like, Nick, you're going to watch me on Hulu, right? And you're like, my God, I'm hallucinating. And possibly I'm a hologram.
And possibly I actually am hallucinating. Yeah, so, but my affinity for the show, it hasn't wavered. If that's what I mean,
Interesting.
You know what?
I'm a very patient, very forgiving viewer.
To that point, as much as we shit on the new episodes, and like I've said numerous times, even our least worst episode, I don't think is anywhere near the level of the golden years.
Right, that's the hot couple right
it's
now.
very, if at all, taken away my love for The Simpsons. At least, obviously, The Simpsons.
It has or has not? Sorry, has not. Okay, yeah.
You know, the classic Simpsons, obviously. Like I'm not ashamed to still tell people that I'm a huge Simpsons fan.
Right.
You know.
Well, because I think most people, when they think of The Simpsons, they are thinking of those 90s episodes, the
Well,
iconic episodes.
Most people our age, unfortunately, I think
Well, yeah, I guess that's
the
right.
next generation, they
Riker
kind of.
and Data.
Hey, we're
Yeah.
all millennials here, guys.
Worf
Worf
season
loves
25.
post-classic
He's-
Simpsons.
I don't know how
His
Worf
favorite,
talks. I was doing an impression.
his favorite character is Minzy Makel.
That's right. There you go. Okay. But yeah, I guess you are right. But you know, when The Simpsons captured the zeitgeist, that was the classic years.
Yeah.
So that was my point.
Yeah, and it really has not taken away my affection for it.
Yeah. No, it would have to get pretty bad to really impact those untouchable seasons.
All right, so real quick before we get into it, let's do a quick plot recap
Let's do it.
of Helter Shelter. So it starts off with Homer getting hurt at work, and we'll get into all this in more detail. But Homer gets hit in work, and Mr. Burns gives him skybox tickets to a hockey game, I guess so he doesn't sue. They go see hockey. Lisa gets the hockey stick from the winning team, which has termites in it, which break out into the house. Basically, the house gets termites, and they have nowhere to live after trying a few Springfieldians houses.
Springfieldians, yeah.
They end up going on a reality show where you have to live in a period home and live as if you are in 1895, basically because they have nowhere else to stay. So now they're on this reality show where they are, in effect, just being in 1895, and at first they can't cope, but then they get really good with it. Unfortunately, it's not very exciting TV, so the producers...
The episode is not. You're right. It's not very exciting TV.
So the
We'll talk about
producers pick up the house. They put Squiggy in the house, then they pick up the house, drop it in the river. They get stranded, apparently, in the Amazon, where they team up with other reality former contestants, and rebel against the TV producers. And that happens, and then they're back at home.
Right.
And then Homer shoots himself in the face with the
hose.
a hose, and there's a Law and Order parody in the middle.
Yeah.
And I know that doesn't really...
It's the classic episode we've seen so many times before, where the termites in the hockey stick lead to them going on a reality show and then going into the Amazon.
Give us something original.
Like,
guys.
Pretty
oh my
boilerplate
God.
episode.
All right.
So now I'm saying it out loud, and I'll get into this later for sure. I'm sure we all will, about how the story it wasn't the strongest spine to the story.
no.
But I want to say this, especially the first half or so. I think this is one of the funniest episodes we've covered on the show. Most of my notes, I can't believe I'm saying this. Most of my notes, and I have more than usual, is just lines that I liked.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I thought the first act was very, very funny. There's a lot of great stuff that we'll get into in a moment. But then when the actual plot of the episode, when they're actually, by the time they're at the 1895 house, that's when the episode really just started going downhill very quickly for me.
It just becomes very scattershot, and the episode acknowledges that at the very end, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So thus making a criticism of it much more difficult.
Yeah,
Because they're like, we're in on it too, guys.
And I see. I think I could tell you, Dan, fell off earlier than we did. I actually liked it throughout, and I liked the reality show stuff. I do agree, though, that there was no substance to hold the episode onto. There's no story.
There's
I
no
mean,
heart
there's a
to this
premise.
episode.
There was no story at all. There
Yeah.
were no stakes. Nothing mattered.
No.
It was just, we need a place to live. Let's
Which
go
is
on this reality
why
show.
the ending was such.
Yeah, the end was just, we're back home.
Yeah.
And then Homer looks in a hose.
All right. So let's
We'll get there.
Okay, so the episode, and again, this was a Purgatorio episode, so it's season 14. It still has remnants of feeling like the 90s Simpsons, and it opens with, the very first thing it opens up with is an establishing shot of the nuclear power plant with the bird squawk, which
Right.
is something from the classic
Which
era.
we talked about a few episodes ago.
They
5 or
don't
6
really
ago.
do it that much
Yeah, the like
anymore.
scene-setting sound effect. Like at the supermarket
Yeah.
would be like the
The
cart rolling away.
down- yeah,
and
there's
if the
one with
power
the
plant was
coyote
like,
howl.
Like always in the darkness, like when it's quiet, it'll be like,
yeah, and then one of the most famous ones, like we just said, is the squawk of the nuclear
Right.
power. So it just feeling that right off the bat just makes me feel a little bit more at home.
I
Like,
was just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a homey feeling.
Yeah.
And then you see Homer. Homey.
Yeah, so Homer is whistling, walking down the hallway, and about 2 seconds into that, all of a sudden, just the ceiling and the pipe collapses and crushes it.
For no reason.
Fantastic.
Yeah. It was really funny.
It was really funny.
In general, this first scene, up until the hockey, the pacing was really quick. It was
very
really
quick.
like. It was almost like they knew, okay, we're doing the standard non sequitur first act. Let's just bang through it, you know.
Yeah.
I really liked it. The timing was perfect. He walked down the hallway just short enough and just long enough for the pipe falling on his head to be hilarious.
Perfectly timed, very well done. And I don't usually like a lot of like, Homer got hurt, isn't that hilarious? But the suddenness of it, and then just how quickly it's just swept under the rug. It's just like, well, Mr. Burns gave us these skybox tickets.
Yeah, the execution was perfect. And I also really like, too, when he's whistling, and when he gets crushed, his whistling is all, like, kind of off, as if like, you like a car horn in an accident, or if you crush, like, a record player.
Or you know your lungs.
Yeah, you know your lungs. I don't think if you get crushed in real life, I'm not sure that's the sound that comes out of your lungs.
All right, we're going to crush you right now. I like that they go into the skybox entrance, and next to that is the schnook entrance. I love the word schnook. That's a great one. Just a great visual gag.
We say there's certain things that the Simpsons seem immune to. Like in the newer episodes, they still have anytime they do a joke about a certain thing, it's funny. Groundskeeper Willie jokes, Hibbert jokes. Religious. One we haven't said before, I think, is class warfare.
Yes.
Between the classes, and that's still very funny. The rich versus poor.
Yeah,
they play it up to.
They do, and I liked how it was done. It was mostly in this first act. I actually thought that was going to come back at some point, and the episode was going to be like a class type thing.
It should have been.
That they were setting up. I don't know how they would have done it, but it was. All of this first act was like, we're in the skybox and you guys are peons.
Yeah,
and then it just went nowhere. Like,
but there's so many good gags they squeeze again because it was so fast paced. Like,
well, I mean, my personal favorite of this whole skybox jokes is when Marge walks in. She's like, "It's like Moby's house on Cribs."
Oh, really?
Really? That's probably my least favorite. That
was one of the.
Having watched the Moby episode of Cribs,
an
insane amount of times when I was in high school.
Was this like a famous episode of Cribs? I've never seen it. I don't know if I ever watched it.
In my personal canon, yes. But
was this episode just came out of your imagination? Did you will it? Are you Tommy Westphalen?
That episode of Cribs was your Bible.
But the joke being. It looks nothing like Moby's house.
See,
you can assume that by having seen the episode and how absurd his house is. You know, the whole episode is just the Cribs episode is him like wearing all white, showing his chilled out Soho loft. He offers the cameraman or camera person. Orange juice, like you come back to my place.
What an obnoxious orange juice. Orange juice.
He's like fresh pressed orange juice. This is 2002.
I just give people oranges when they come over. I'm like, you gotta make your own juice.
You just lob it at their heads.
Yeah,
you're welcome to dance.
Get out.
So and every time I see this episode, I always laugh at that line.
Okay, well, it makes a little more sense then.
That makes sense. It stood out to me because it was just a dated reference, whereas all the other ones were kind of these not timely jokes.
Well, do you think it was intentional? Like they knew that episode of Cribs, and like they knew that Moby's house was.
I'm sure one of the writers probably caught it on TV.
Okay,
and apparently it was on a lot.
Yes,
to me,
it was on a lot.
To me, not having seen that Cribs episode, it was just like, I'm sure Moby has like a fancy house, and it's just like he was a contemporary reference at the time.
To me, it's 200002.
Well, it's interesting because they want to clearly take down reality TV, which at this point was just really like exploding.
It was just getting going. It was only 2 years into it, and everybody still thought it was a fad at this point.
Yeah. Right. But we'll talk throughout the episode, but I don't really think there was much biting satire against reality TV. I mean, it was mostly just a bunch of references.
Yeah, maybe in 2015 it feels less biting, but at the time it didn't feel biting.
I mean, it's funny because they do take some really smart stabs at it. Like they say, okay, this calls for an original idea. Everybody take out their TVs. And
that was the only thing that was satirical and kind of incisive.
But even that didn't feel that funny. Even that felt toothless to me.
Well, we've heard that joke 100 times in other.
I guess that's I guess that's why.
I guess, yeah.
Maybe at the time it was like, oh, maybe
It's like, oh, they went there.
Yeah.
The
Like this is about time somebody takes down these reality TV guys. But I want to point out though, back to the class jokes. There was a couple of my favorite joke was so Homer's got asked for cologne and he goes, do you have anything with the ground up whale in it?
Yep.
And they give him a whale shaped cologne bottle called Blowhole, which this isn't funny, but it's kind of funny that we had just watched the whale episode, which was one of the most heartfelt, emotional episodes we've covered.
Yep.
And then to see this one a few years earlier.
Chop up a whale and put it on my face.
But what was really funny was then Lenny and Carl are like, "Hey,
This was my favorite part, too.
don't we get any cologne or anything like that?" And they just get punched in the stomach by the bouncer.
Yeah, that was so good.
And then
That
they're
was
like,
really
"Do we
funny.
tip them?" But which was okay.
That was not a bad button on the joke.
That was a
It
great
wasn't-
one on the
It just
second
wasn't as good as the punching. That's
Right.
all. It was a hard joke.
It was
to
not
follow
an
up.
extra beat alarm.
Yeah, no, it was too hard. It was hard to follow up with anything
Yeah.
funny. It was I just thought that was really funny. That was like just that level of absurdity.
Yep.
Like it was almost too absurd, but it still worked because it was
it
so
totally
funny.
works.
The one joke we skipped was also a great joke was they think they're going to a basketball game and then they realize it's hockey and they're like, oh, hockey, and then it cuts to the stadium and it says hockey tonight, and apparently everybody going to the game also didn't they were just going
They're
to
just
see
going.
any game.
Yeah.
And they were all just so bummed. Now, I'm a huge hockey fan. I love hockey. But I can still just same with their baseball jokes. I can still appreciate the joke that like nobody likes hockey,
nobody likes hockey.
and it was just a really funny execution. Everybody outside the stadium just being so disappointed.
Yeah, at first I was disappointed that they were going to see hockey, and I thought Lisa should be excited because Lisa, is a good hockey player,
Yeah.
and I like that later on she's the one who leaves the skybox to actually go watch the game.
It's a
and
huge
gives
plus
the
for continuity.
she tells Kozlov, the hockey player,
think
like
about
what
that.
to do. Shoot for the 5-hole. He's as open as red square.
Yeah.
That was a pretty good line.
No,
That's a
it
good
was a
one.
great
That's a good
line.
one.
I was just shocked to see the Simpsons, even classic Simpsons, continuity is very low priority for them.
Yeah.
So to
But
see something
like that, like when Lisa's in the presence of hockey, and there's a very famous episode about that. I like that
It's
they don't
current
call
number
back
one.
to it.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
my
really?
that's Lisa on Ice is my number one favorite episode.
solid
So,
episode.
it changes every once in a while. I feel differently, but that was a long time champion, and then I fell off of it. I think I picked some season 3s in there, separate vocations and stuff. But it's now back to being my favorite episode of all time.
Not a poor choice. Not a poor choice.
Not a
solid-
poor choice.
solid app.
And here's a slight extra beat alarm. So Tooth goes flying into the crowd, and Cletus grabs a tooth and puts it in his girl's thing. And it's funny, but it took forever. It's like we get the joke. She got no teeth. You're giving her one of the teeth.
Yeah, just a random tooth.
Then she
shoved it in
turns to the camera
Oh,
and
man.
smiles. She's like, "I look like Britney Spears."
there. She didn't even say that. She said, "Eyes like Britney Spears,"
Yeah,
like really
which wasn't that,
hillbilly.
which was whatever. But then she
It was
turns
fine,
to the
but yeah,
camera
she
and smiles.
She smiles, and it
it
frames
very
there for a
disorienting.
few seconds. And
It's like,
it
come
was
on,
not great.
But in the joke, she turns to the screen and it's. Were you a little bit put back by like the classist humor of it? Like
No,
they
it's
really
just
beating
fine.
down like her
Just the
poorness
pacing, and actually, a lot of the jokes I didn't like in this episode, I feel like all shared the same problem where it just went on forever. My problem, especially with the post-classic gags when I do this, is we know what the joke is. We know we see it coming. We know what it is. We get the joke. If that's the case, then you got to be quick about it because we already know.
Yeah.
Comedy is surprise a lot of the time. And, Cletus grabbing a tooth and putting it in his daughter's mouth, fine.
That was fine. That works.
But I get it. I get it as soon as the tooth's in the air.
You don't need to.
So to further extend it, I guess here we'll just jump ahead a little bit. But another case that I can remember off the top of my head without looking at my notes is when Marge and Homer have sex in the reality house, and they turn the lights out and they go, let's take off these Victorian era undergarments. And the
Right.
joke is, it's so hard to
takes
get
so-
out of
They
these
were-
things.
yeah, they were very
And it
tight.
just-
There was a lot of them.
And it's just going on forever. And it's like, if you're going to add something, give me something, give me the old 1-2 or something.
Right.
If it's just, okay, yes, I get it.
And then they put the lights back on, and Marge is in like a full suit of armor. and it's
Yeah,
just
which
like,
I
we didn't
guess
need to
is
see
the
that.
old 1-2, and
Yeah,
it's more of an old number 2.
And really, it continues until the very end of the episode when they do like Law and Order elevator inspector unit. Like
it just went on forever. It's
Yeah,
like,
that
yes,
was-
we
that
get it.
was
Law
to the
and
point
Order
where I
has
was
this-
like,
We didn't actually need to see it. Like
no,
the title is
that's
funny
why
enough.
That's where I
Yeah, we get it. Law and Order has
signed out.
spin-offs, and the
Yep.
cops are hard-beaten cops, and they're talking about an elevator. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Can
Hilarious.
we please move on to the awful hose ending? Thank you.
Yep.
So no, I feel like a lot of the episodes we cover have that problem.
Yeah,
And a lot of the
definitely the
jokes
extra
I
beat.
didn't like in this episode had that problem.
At least Homer, by and large, was not terrible.
No.
Yeah.
In a couple of scenes, but we'll get to there. So yeah, Lisa knows her hockey and points out to this guy Kozlov, and he gives her his stick, his hockey stick, and that's kind of what sets the episode
Right.
plot in motion.
There's some Russian badass termites hiding inside the stick.
There were no good Nick termites, I think is what they were called. But I like the scene where Homer is hammering the hockey stick above Lisa's bed in her wall.
Yeah.
And Bart is like, how come she gets a hockey stick? I didn't get anything. And he's just like, but her having this doesn't hurt you. And then it cuts to the other side of the wall where the nail comes through, right through Bart's face in a photo with Krusty.
It was a great visual gag.
That's a classic joke about
Yes, they're
Very
drawing
classic.
attention to it, but they're not like hammering it home. No
Oh,
pun intended.
But they are hammering.
Yeah,
That was. I'll be here all week.
that was one of my favorite jokes in the
live here.
episode.
So the animation of the termites coming out was great.
Yeah, very nice.
And there was that's actually for the standard non sequitur first act that has nothing to do with each other. I liked it. It was for the hockey and all those great gags to lead to the termites. It all felt very A to B to C. There was I could follow it. It wasn't it was obviously
Well, it made sense if you want to get the Simpsons out of their house.
Yeah.
That was not a bad way of doing it.
Yeah, it felt
doesn't really lead to
Simpson-y
the
to me.
reality show stuff.
No, but it felt Simpson-y to
separate
me. It's like
problem.
the Simpsons get termites and it's
And
comically exaggerated.
Yeah.
In a very, non sequitur way. It's like somehow they end up with a hockey stick from Russia.
Yeah, right.
And they do some good gags with the termites. I especially like Marge opens up the cabinet and there's a hole in the wall so she could see directly to Flanders trimming his hedges. And there's a million different ways you could have done that scene, and it just felt like perfect, like for Flanders to be there and just being polite and waving through the hole. That
Right.
just felt like that just felt really right.
He doesn't point out at all that there's a hole in their house.
Yeah,
It's just
yeah.
like, howdy ho, Marge.
Yeah.
What a great way to start a Flanderific day.
Yeah. It was very well done.
Yeah, I liked it. I also loved, actually this might have been my favorite joke in the whole episode. They're like, we gotta call the exterminator. It pulls up and it's just a Bug's Death
Yeah,
extermination.
the exact logo.
With the
from Bug's
logo
Life.
from the Pixar movie.
Yeah, it's very close.
That was funny. I
It's
laughed.
the
That got
2002
me.
Pixar joke, everyone.
Yeah. Oh.
Everybody
This
hates
is what they look
Raven.
like.
Everybody hates so Poochie.
No, but it was very clever.
Yeah, I like that. And then even after that, when Marge is like, where do you get at these exterminators? And he goes, I just go by how funny their sign is. I like that too. Yeah, and that was kind of meta, but I like that.
No, it was fine. It was perfect. What did you guys think of? So then there's this thing where they put the cloak or whatever over the house while they're defogging it.
The tent over the house. Yeah,
and I guess that's much more apt than cloak.
They cloaked the house in dark.
And then the Romulans came in, and they were like, "Why are you taking our cloaking device?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know."
And Christopher Lloyd was there for some reason.
And then Warf comes up, and he's like,
Yep. My favorite episode of season 25.
All
of it. That's how those Klingons work.
So the bullies go in. They think it's a circus, so they sneak into the circus because that's what the bullies do.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of this whole gag?
The idea of them thinking it's a circus was totally whatever.
Yeah.
But then they actually do, and then immediately the exterminator drags them out, and they're all high off the fumes, and they're just going, doo, 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 and that just did nothing for me.
"Yeah, that joke fell flat."
And again, this was one of those where, all right, I get it. They're gonna go in and pass out, and they do.
Yeah.
And they're pulled out, and it's just
Especially-
why drag it out if we know what's gonna happen already?
Especially with the bullies getting like high on very questionable substances. Like I feel like this has been a joke.
They
throughout
are
the
known
series.
heroin addicts.
Yeah, amongst other things, I think they huff in one episode. And,
Yeah, that's a good point.
Probably.
And so that just I don't know. That
Yeah,
one,
you're right. It would have made more sense if instead of thinking it was a circus for some reason, which
They
is
actually
something
were just
that
going in to get high.
Yeah, if they were trying to get
actually,
high
that-
off of the fumes, that would have
probably
That
worked.
would have
because
been much more on character
like
for
why,
them.
especially
Yeah.
because even if it was a circus, why are they so? Why do they give a shit about a circus?
They really-
Let's go see those elephants, man.
Why would the circus just appear in this residential neighborhood?
No, yeah, it would make so much more sense for them to
Yeah,
huff the fumes.
that would have been much better. I would have liked that. a lot.
Also, the poison has James Coburn's face on it, which is that's just funny.
Yeah, and that's kind of it. So they fumigate the house. The Simpsons have to leave, and they say, "What are we gonna do?" And Homer says, "Well, we're just gonna stand outside the house for a moment. We're just gonna stand outside the house until it's done." And it just turns into a King of the Hill
And
parody.
this is where another
We get
episode's
it,
making very clear that we're going for we're going all pop culture in this episode. This whole opening sequence has been
Yeah,
pop-
although with King of the Hill, I feel like it's less universal pop culture reference and more like a kinship. Like,
Well, yeah, obviously at that point, you know, it's like
the show was on right after the
Yeah.
Simpsons
yeah,
at that point.
It was less like let's make a King of the Hill reference and more let's make a reference to this other animated show we share a
Right.
primetime slot with.
And earlier that season, or like a season right around 14, you know, there's an episode where Homer's coaching the football team.
Yeah,
and
yeah, and-
Yeah,
Hank,
right.
Hank comes up with
Yep.
his family to watch Bobby play, and it's like, why are they?
Yeah.
Why is King of the Hill here?
Yeah.
I mean, the situation was ripe for a king. Like the King of the Hill parody felt organic. It didn't feel forced in because
No.
they are standing in front of the house. But and
wasn't
like,
funny.
but
It wasn't funny.
I didn't laugh. Yeah, I just didn't laugh. Again, you already know what the joke's gonna be. As soon as he
Yes.
pulls the pull tab, it's like,
yeah,
all right.
and you hear the doo.
Yeah, I mean, even before that, you could see it
They could have
coming.
just done
Yeah.
that. Like,
But
Yeah, they could have. I mean, it was
well, yeah,
just,
do a jump cut like the music starts and then you just cut away. It's like, yeah, you get it. You know,
Yeah, you
that's
get
what-
yeah. I mean, it was, you know, it wasn't very funny, but it was just a very straightforward, Simpsonized
yeah,
version
yes.
of the King of the Hill.
Exactly, which is you get nothing.
Like it was the same exact things happening with the couch getting loaded and unloaded. And,
I
like,
didn't
Flanders
hate it. They
drives
should have
by.
done a couch gag, if anything. You got the couch up there. You know.
Oh, that would have been better.
But
that's a good point.
The only it was enjoyable if only because the King of the Hill theme is so catchy. It's
a great
So
theme.
like I liked listening
Underrated
to the
show
whole.
overall.
Great show, great show.
Underrated.
I hated it when I was a kid when it was on, and I watched it in my 20s.
you
Brilliant
rewatch
show.
it, it's so good.
Brilliant show.
Yeah, it's what The Simpsons set out to be, which was the original first season of The Simpsons and the early Simpsons was supposed to be like as if it could have been filmed in live action. No animation gags or jokes.
It's a very sincere show.
And King of the Hill never. It's as long as King of the Hill was on, it really never veered into that surreal. They took some liberties, but it really never became cartoony in the way The Simpsons
It's a
did.
very grounded
In the way
cartoon
Simpsons
show.
did by season 3, by
Yeah.
season 2. The King of the Hill really kept it a lot more
season,
grounded.
season 2 did have Bart
Yeah.
the Daredevil, which
Yeah.
has Homer falling down the
Yeah.
Yeah,
porch
no,
and not
like
dying.
it kept it grounded for very like to be on that long. It's on what 15 seasons more.
No, I don't think it was on that.
I thought it was
long.
11,
I thought it was 11 also.
Oh, so even that's
since
just
Nick and I both thought 11, we're just gonna assume it
let's
was
just say
11.
11. We don't look things up on this show.
Oh, I
11.
look everything up. I'm going to.
Nick's gonna look.
All right.
So but it's just impressive that it stayed grounded. But again, it was like you said, it was a straightforward parody. So what's the point in sitting through the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it, I guess.
Like
but
I literally would have
wasn't
been
funny.
fine with them just having a like an animated Algene say, "All right," and then this is where we would do a 30-second extended take of King of the Hill because that would have been faster, and then we could
yeah,
move
I
on.
guess. Gotta get to those great jokes about reality TV.
Yeah.
So yeah, the King of the Hill thing ended the first act, and then the second act begins. The Simpsons are trying to check into a hotel, and all of the rooms are taken up because there's a brand producers convention at the hotel.
Which
What did you guys think of this moment?
This is a purgatory episode in that it's foreshadowing the pop culture of the new eras, but brand convention is something that feels like it could have been season 2. Like that's a Simpsons-y kind of gag, and just to have a brand convention. And
right,
then
and the guy up there is like, face it, guys,
yeah.
we haven't had a great idea since Raisin Bran, and everyone flips out.
Let him speak. No,
He's crazy.
Just the fact that they would take it so serious, that encapsulates exactly what I love about The Simpsons. That is a Simpsons joke to me.
Yeah.
They actually do a series of funny gags, I think, here. Or not funny. They do a series of gags where the Simpsons try different locations where they can stay.
Yes.
And
So
this
first,
Oh, yeah, sorry. This goes to one of my all-time favorite running jokes in The Simpsons. The very questionable nature of Lenny's domicile.
Yeah.
Because they brought this up in numerous episodes, and
we've seen him in several houses.
it's several always super posh house, like condos. It makes no sense, and yet it somehow makes a lot of sense.
And he shares a wall with a highlight court in this one.
Right.
Which was
Yeah,
great.
That was
Right.
funny.
That was really funny. I almost wish they had brought that sound effect. I think they only do it the one time and then that's it, right? Or,
Well, and then
Well, they show the wall in Lenny's face and,
and Lenny
the
just like
pelota
entranced
hitting
by
him.
the sound of the highlight chord,
Yeah,
which is
he
amazing.
finds it
And as the
soothing.
Simpsons, very nervously step out of back out of the apartment, but
Yep.
it just hammers home how much of a weirdo Lenny is. Which,
is he married? Does he have a wife?
Sometimes he does, sometimes he
Right?
doesn't.
'Cause he
he
does
has had a
sometimes,
wife
right?
in some episodes. Yeah.
And he's shaving somebody's leg.
Yep.
but
That's
then
exactly
that
right.
one episode where it's like when Marge is the real estate agent,
Yep.
and they go to see his house, and the front drops down. He's sitting
Please
in
don't tell
an empty
anyone how I
house,
live.
empty house in his underwear. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the
One of my
listen lady
favorite-
one where he says, "I told Carl my wife is going to make a big dinner. I don't even have a wife." So maybe he got divorced between.
Yeah, I was
episodes.
gonna say he could be a good stereotypical divorce guy, but I guess Kirk's filling that role.
Yeah, Kirk.
What did you guys think of Homer thinking he was Carl? I thought that was a little too stupid for Homer. I think that was veering into
Yeah, I feel like-
eye rolling.
I feel like they've done that a few times.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they
like,
did-
I
they did
thought
that,
Lenny was
yes.
the black one. Yeah.
It never works for me where Homer is. Homer should be not completely stupid. He should be dumb.
Look, I know stupid.
He should know his friends.
I know very stupid people. I work with a lot of very stupid people.
Yeah.
Jack and I both do.
Yeah, we both work with very stupid people. They know who I am.
Right.
Exactly. That's not really a question of IQ.
Yeah.
If anything, that's more of a face line.
Yeah, no, that's
decision.
something that, like, a behavioral psychologist with a 2-year-old can establish. Like,
Right.
oh, they recognize faces, good, they're good, go.
Yeah.
They're not,
Like Homer can be dumb, but would he really not know who Lenny is?
Right.
He wouldn't. He would.
All
know
right,
Lenny.
so
anyway.
So we didn't like
they
that.
try
Yeah, I did
comic
not like
book
that.
guy next because obviously that's who you would go to.
Of course.
Really?
Well, but I liked that comic book guy says, yes, our favorite family, which is a reference to the alt.tv.simpsons way back in the day, the Usenet group, which is what they would refer to them
Oh, really?
as. Yeah.
I did not, yeah.
They used to call them OFF
I
was
mean-
the initial. Like if you go on simpsonsarchive.com and look at the episode capsules.
I heard you chuckle
Super
at that when
nerdy
you, said,
stuff.
when you said that. I was like, I'm missing a joke right now.
Yeah, so
I'm
there you
glad-
go.
I'm
There's
glad-
the joke.
We
We may have actually educated
that
someone.
joke went over my head. I didn't get it, but I assumed it was a meta reference and just that, like,
Yeah.
we're Springfield. The Simpsons is our lovable mascot. Like,
Yeah.
like, he was kind of breaking the fourth wall.
We're in
Yeah,
existence because
So
of the
I
family.
appreciated it even without knowing that, but that's great.
Yeah, and obviously comic book guy is usually the surrogate for the internet-y fans
Right.
of
Yeah.
the time.
At least then, because,
came up with worst
because
episode
back
ever.
then only
He
nerds
was
use
the
the internet.
meta-head.
Now everybody
Yeah,
does.
well,
so
yeah.
now it's kind of redundant. But also, he had a xenomorph in his living room, like an alien action figure. That's really, really nerdy to have a xenomorph in your living room.
It sure is, Jack.
As the three of us stare at the xenomorph.
Jack has a framed drawing of a xenomorph in his living room.
You mean in Wii Studios?
I
And
mean-
and it's not drawn; it's carved
In
out of
Wii
gold.
Studios. Yes, etched in the gold of Wii Studios, there's the xenomorph.
Yeah, like so. Here's my question though: is so you could pick literally any Springfielders for this montage or this
Yeah.
sequence. You pick Lenny, fine. Why comic book guy? Just to get these sci-fi jokes? Like he's having like a tea party or something
I
with
think
the.
they get
Yeah,
the
I
meta,
don't
I think
really
they
know
get the
what
meta
that was.
jokes. I mean, you always bring this comic book guy in to make some broader comment about the show.
Yeah.
And so maybe it was just commenting on like, oh, the Simpsons are like, homeless again, or like they're going like
Yeah.
I always feel like you bring in comic guy to kind of acknowledge like this is something we've done before.
Right.
And like, here's the meta figure of our show making a commentary on it. Even
But
though he doesn't really do that. in
didn't
this.
really,
No, he
yeah.
talks about his alien UN, which is much more endearing. I was like, oh, he's being quite adorable right now. Like, he's not being snarky. He's just like, I'm a sad, lonely man hanging out with a bunch of cardboard
Hanging out
cutouts.
with cardboard cutouts of famous sci-fi figures.
So that's also what made this kind of weird because it was a very off character presentation of a comic book guy, but I liked it personally. It worked for me.
It is
Yeah, I mean,
interesting
it was
that
quick.
they
It was very
use
quick.
this to show how the other people live.
Yes.
It's like this is how Lenny lives. This is how comic book guy lives.
Right.
Maybe
This
they
is
could've
how
done
Mo
more with
lives
that,
because
yeah.
they just go to Mo's Tavern and they're gonna live at the bar.
Yeah,
Maggie
exactly.
drunk is very cute.
Right, so they have Maggie gets drunk off of the alcohol fumes, and
Mean drunk
Marge or
Maggie.
Homer is like, oh, Maggie's a mean drunk, and she's wobbling, trying to stand and trying to punch Marge in the
It was
face.
adorable.
was cute.
So Sober Barney suggests to the reality show that there's a reality show that where you can live in a period 1895 home, but you have to live like them. You can't use any modern technology. So
Mm-hmm.
they decided to sign up for it. Now when I watched this, I was like, oh, that's an interesting idea for a reality show.
Oh.
I thought it was an original idea. I thought they were
no.
maybe taking it to
no.
an extreme. So this was already a reality show at the time. in
Yes.
The
2002.
1900 house is what this is based.
1895, forget it. We'd be too late to save Lincoln and too early to save Kennedy.
You can save McKinley.
It's not a time machine, Mo.
Okay, so anyway, they're doing this as established gag. So they go through they cycle through these reality shows, and there's this weird, awkward voiceover where Marge they're like, "Do you think they'll really let us on TV?" And Marge says, "Well, if they'll let Mike O'Malley on TV,
Yeah.
they'll let anybody."
Yeah, that was stupid.
So first of all, this seems like. You see this in live
Take
action
that, Mike
movies.
O'Malley.
Well, yeah, you see this in live action movies a lot where they need the filler, or they're worried you're not going to know where the next scene is taking place or the context, so they dub in this like line of
Yeah.
exposition over the audio is like you can always tell because it's just like you never see the people actually saying it. You just hear the voice.
It's a lot of time when someone's back is turned and they say a line.
Yeah, or there's
that's
a car
edited later.
driving, and it's like you're way above the car, and you just know that they're in the car. So it's weird that The Simpsons would do that, especially because unlike live action, you could probably just draw them hard saying it if you have to. But
Well, it's probably a really late addition
Yeah,
for some
and
reason. Like, you got to get that Mike O'Malley
That's
gag
what I was
in
gonna
there.
say. So if you're gonna force it in the last minute, I would assume it's because you came up with this really great gag, and like, A, you're doing this dated Mike O'Malley reference. B, Mike O'Malley is a very talented guy. He's actually a great dramatic actor. He was really
Yes,
good
he
in Justified.
Justified. He was. I was about to
Yeah,
say,
he was on this this Christian Slater's first TV show because he's been trying to like do TV for years now.
Yeah.
His
Yeah.
first one was really cool,
For
where
years,
he played like a
decades.
CIA agent with split personality.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
called
yeah.
My Own Worst Enemy.
Right.
And Mike O'Malley
that.
played another agent, and he was fucking badass. And he also played a dual role where he was like the regular neighbor next door, but he was also this killer assassin. And
Wow.
he was so good at it. So I really like Mike O'Malley, and he was one of the highlights of Glee.
I
Which
like him.
is,
Yeah,
Yes,
he was actually
agreed.
good on Glee.
Yeah.
What I
Yeah.
saw of Glee.
Yeah,
you
I
know.
watched 1.5 seasons. Mike O'Malley was what I remember. From
Yeah,
Yeah,
Glee.
so why go out of your way to
knock the punch
Mike
him?
O'Malley? Especially
But I was-
because most people probably were, especially in 2002, were like, who? What?
Well,
Yeah.
Yes Dear was on at that point, wasn't it?
Was it?
Yeah,
I know
it had to be.
I know the Mike O'Malley show was right around there.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this man's career, but I've always found it
Yes, you are.
very, very fascinating.
We are
'cause-
both experts on the Mike O'Malley oeuvre.
You know, I mean, he's always been like the C-list, just character. Like he was using a lot of MTV promos in the '90s. Oh, sorry, using a lot of MTV promos in the '90s. You know,
Yeah.
ESPN picked him up for a lot of promos, and then in between him being this kind of ad guy, like for a decade, he was on a bunch of well-known ads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And between that, he made all these shots of TV, but he just never really had a success. And so it's just like, why kick back? Especially in 2002 when his career was just probably middling. He's doing fine. I'm sure he's, but it's
Yeah.
like, why kick Michael O'Malley in the balls?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It must have been a joke because I think the Mike O'Malley show had failed and maybe
Yeah.
Yes Dear
It
just
had
started.
two
It was just a
episodes,
joke
yeah.
because I guess he had so many failed pilots. But you know
Maybe?
what? It doesn't take any guts to make a joke like that.
There you go. You got to start on guts.
I'll see you guys.
His guts.
I'll see y'all later.
Maybe he had sex with one of the writer's wives. And like it was like last minute, and like, did that episode go out yet?
Get him!
It would have been great if that is what happened and it was much more aggressive. It was like, I hope they let us on the reality show. I hope Mike O'Malley burns in hell.
For having sex with my wife.
He fucked my wife. My God, Marge got really violent in that voiceover joke.
Al Jean's like, let me just rewrite that. A little.
Yeah, let me take that down. Good job, Algene.
Thanks, LG.
Another apt line that still kind of felt toothless, I guess, because it's been done a million times by now. But I did kind of like when he said, I came up with all of the hit reality shows, and by come up with, I mean
Yeah.
I stole them from Dutch television and changed the names.
Yeah.
I feel like that joke was actually 2 years ahead of its time. Like, especially.
Yeah, maybe.
Like, I mean, we applied to reality shows with what's his face from NBC, who took The Office, and when this episode came out, I remember thinking like all the reality TV jokes were pretty au courant. Like they were like definitely of the moment, and they're pretty like. But it just seemed a little early for a reality TV show episode.
Sorry.
I don't know. I thought all of the reality TV jokes, it just felt like very Mad Magazine style.
Everybody
Just
hates
like-
Raymond.
Yeah, very just like, we're not really trying. It's just like, isn't that reality TV stupid? Like,
Yeah.
what happens to the people they vote off? They go live in the Amazon and their own tribe.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
One meta joke I did like was where they said, well, first of all, they have this weird Bill Cosby thing on, and they've done very
So
funny.
we're not going to talk about Bill
Yeah,
Cosby. We're just going to leave that
Well,
there.
they've done funny Bill Cosby jokes in the past, and this one didn't feel that funny at all. But
they say we need a family that hasn't been on TV
so
forever.
They
Get me
followed
The
up with
Simpsons.
that. Yeah, they followed up with let's get a family who hasn't been on TV forever. Let's go with The Simpsons. I thought that was a really funny meta joke. That reminds me of like the season 3 where The Simpsons are on all the merchandise, kind of poke fun at themselves.
Right.
I like that joke a
Yeah.
lot.
I didn't like it a lot.
But the Cosby impression that just went on for a minute, it's like, yeah, he talks funny, we get it. So they finally get to the 1895 house. Bart is dressed up like a period boy, I guess.
yeah, with a little...
Did he have a lollipop? I forgot.
He didn't have a lollipop, but he
should
basically
have.
had everything
Yeah,
but.
he had the
he
curly,
should've.
and
curly
everything.
cues, yeah.
And he says, I feel like Buster Brown, whoever that is. That's another
Yeah.
meta joke. I liked it.
I do.
Yeah, I didn't like these kind. I don't know.
I like the idea that they would make
See-
the reference and then admit that, like, why would Bart know who Buster Brown is?
There's a whole stretch of stuff in this episode that's just
Is it a
like
huge stretch?
bit of a huge stretch. No, it's just where they're just like, hey, this is an old-timey thing. Reference.
Yeah. But the Buster Brown one, if he just said, I
Buster
feel
Brown-
like Buster Brown, I would agree. But I like the fact that they point out
Whoever
that he
is.
wouldn't get it.
I feel like that makes it worse for me, actually. Like, we know that Bart doesn't know who it is, and Bart doesn't even know who it is. So, like, it's just this weird meta thing.
Yeah, it's very meta. It doesn't
that-
really work.
It doesn't work for me. I don't know.
So here's a joke I really didn't like. It reminded me of PostClassic. When Homer shaves with a straight razor and comes out and the blood just starts shooting out of his face. Even if it was for maybe a second, I might have really liked it because, although again, I saw the joke coming a mile away. But he just gushes blood, and it's like, what is this, a Halloween episode? Come
Just
on.
like...
I wrote that down though. It was like, I am no longer a slave to the Gillette Corporation.
That's not a bad line.
The visual gag, whatever. It's been done, but I like the line.
I agree. I like that line. But he comes out. It's Bart says Homer has to shave with a straight razor, and he comes out and he's got the bits of toilet paper on his face, getting all the blood. And then he sits down. They all fall off, and the blood starts shooting out. And then he passes out, and he lands in his cereal. Why can't you just have he comes out and he's like, "Good morning, family," but he's already just gushing blood already, just just dripping down his face.
Well, how
or
about this?
something.
It's very easy to rewrite the joke, and there's a million ways to do it. But what about, God forbid, what if they did this? So what if they go, oh, Homer's using a straight razor for the first time, whatever, and you just see a puddle of blood coming into the room from outside the door?
That'd be
That
funny.
would
I mean, that's dark. And I
but
feel
yeah,
like
that
if
could've
they
been
did
good.
do that, we would be giving it shit for saying that's too dark. But
No, I might have liked that.
I would definitely like that.
then they're in a coal-powered car, and Homer's got the goggles on, and then you're like you said, it's just reference for reference.
yeah.
It's just here's an old-timey thing. But I did like the animation of when he goes, "Stop now." And the car just bumps into the wall. For some reason, I just
that was
liked
good.
the animation of that. Blocking does a lot for me. Good blocking.
Yeah, I can see that.
Good. It's hard.
Staging.
Good staging.
Yeah, but then they go into the Quickie Mart, and Apu won't let them buy anything wasn't around in 1895. And there's a couple of jokes
Which it turns out Urkelos were not around in 1895.
yeah,
It's kind of shocking.
Yeah, a joke from 1991 happening in 2002
Yeah,
episode
yeah,
about
Urkelos
1895.
weren't around in 1994, let alone 1895.
yeah. But Marge really wants to get tampons, and Apu takes out an almanac, and he's like, they weren't around, and she was like, oh, look closer, and then she hits him with the book, and then says 23 skidoo, and runs out. I hated it.
I
hated
like
that
the
joke.
idea of Marge using violence because she's just like, fuck it, I'm getting tampons. I don't
Oh,
care if they're
yes.
not period. But
Yeah.
a rare poor delivery by Julie Kavner, and I think it was more the writing. You're right. The way it was just executed was not just funny. It was kind of
23 skidoo, that's something they used to say.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a lot of these things. It was just I get what you're doing. Bart is I can't read these old-timey comics, and he
These
holds
Mutt and
up
Jeff
Mutt and
comics.
Jeff.
Yeah, I
And
get
he's
it.
they're gay. That was kind of funny.
I didn't like that.
Fine.
I did like the actual comic where it was just after it said Mutt or Jeff was letting the other one said after
it
you.
just said
and I
after
guess
you.
that was supposed to be the joke.
Yeah.
That's
That was pretty
that's
funny,
fun.
That's pretty
Actually,
funny.
Yeah, and like we said, the Victorian undergarment jokes. Really, do we need a minute for Victorian undergarment jokes?
Victorian undergarment jokes. Oh my goodness! Here in 2051, we don't have that.
Governor!
Now the vapors means the toxic gas, the aliens.
It'll turn you inside out. Yeah.
Another reality. All right, here's another reality show joke that again we've seen it a million times now, and it's kind of old hat, but at the time it's probably fresher, and I can still appreciate. I really liked it. Is where the grandpa and the old folks are watching it on TV, and you could see how miserable everybody is, and they said. Look, everyone is miserable. This is great television. I like that as a comment on why do people like reality TV? Why do you like watching these people suffer?
Well, people like watching other people
I know,
suffer.
so I thought it was funny for them to call out attention to it.
Yeah.
Although both times the only time you ever really see anybody watching them on TV was just the retirement
just in
castle,
the
right?
retirement castle,
So did they think again? If people thought reality show was a fad at the time, did they think that was more of an old people thing, like game shows and whatever whatever you watch early afternoon when you have a day off from work and you notice it's all commercials for doctors and
Yeah.
Okay,
Life alert.
Survivor was on CBS.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And it was a very,
Yeah.
but it was a very popular show.
Oh, no, it was nice. It was on the
Survivor
cover
was
of
very,
Newsweek,
very, very
like-
popular.
I mean, even in
That is kind of the
2002,
Final
I don't
Four.
think the zeitgeist or the prevalent idea was that only old people watch
No, it was
reality
not.
TV.
Everyone
so
watched
it was
reality
just
TV.
kind of weird. Like, it would have been more interesting just to, do the classic where you cut to people around town watching on TV.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
just elderly.
It was weird that they
It was
just
weird
did
that they didn't. They had to make room for Squiggy, which is coming up.
Make room for Squiggy,
That's our next podcast. Talking about Laverne and Shirley.
where we literally build extra rooms on Squiggy's house. It's kind of like Extreme Makeover, except it's just Squiggy's house. And 50 episodes in, it's a very large house now.
David Lander, if you're listening, we're going to get going on that.
We're gonna do it. We just need you guys to buy some more stuff on Amazon.
Yes, right.
We're
Click
gonna
through.
afford more rooms for Squiggy.
We need supplies.
We're gonna build a secret passage from the kitchen to the conservatory or whatever it was.
Squiggy is Mr. Body.
So I actually didn't mind the montage. So then they do a sepia-colored montage where you see that they finally they need to get the plot where they sucked at being in 1895 and now they're good at
Yeah.
it and they actually find they're
They
good
get into
at
the
it.
rhythm, you know?
Yeah. So what I liked about this montage was that it was the scenes, while not particularly funny, they got the point across, but it didn't use a 6-second pop song. That's what I really liked about it. It was actually like
They used,
old-timey music. But at least I'm just glad they didn't use a pop song that was like, if there was a pop song whose lyrics were relevant to
Gonna
1895.
go back in time.
Yeah, exactly. If it was that, or like Kid Rock's Cowboy or something. I don't know.
Oh, man,
But,
that
like,
would have been...
that's what I would
Like
expect
if I
the show
knew
to do
Jack
now.
Henry.
Yeah,
That's a good point, Jack.
I'm just
That's
glad they
awful.
didn't do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give it points where I can.
I mean, I personally did not like the montage. To me, it just felt like here's a bunch of 1895
I
jokes.
literally
I
forgot
did
it.
like the
Like-
Moe's prank call through Morse code. Like if you're
Oh, yeah,
gonna
that
do
was
an
pretty funny.
1895 period Moe's prank call,
It wasn't good though. I just didn't enjoy it.
I liked that, and it was hey would you cuddle me, which
Yeah.
everybody knows it's hey would you blow me, and you
Of
can't say
course.
that in Simpsons, so
Yeah.
so they changed
I
it.
wouldn't say that in 1895.
And actually, that's what
But-
the Simpsons writer's wife did to
To Mike O'Malley?
To Mike O'Malley, and that's where it came from.
that's
But then Moe's response, though, I did like that. It's like, I'm going to drive a spike between your Union
Yeah,
Pacific
exactly.
and
That
like...
it was, yeah,
That wasn't bad.
It was
I-
using a period reference. It was updating, or what's the opposite of updating if it's going back in time?
retrofitting.
Retrodating.
Retrofitting.
Reverse updating.
Retrofitting the
Yeah,
Moe
it was
response of,
retrofitting
like,
the
I'm going to
Moe,
murder you,
the
like...
and you can't really do that Moe Bart prank call thing anymore because it's been done to death, and so
Right.
it was nice to see a new
And there
take
are no
on it in
line lines.
season 14.
Yeah, I mean, this montage was the moment when I realized, like, oh, this episode doesn't have a point. It's just, we're just going to make a bunch of gags about 1895 and, like, how life was then.
And pass off his commentary on reality
And then,
TV.
yeah, and then some light satire on reality television.
This had nothing to do with anything, but I thought the elderly animals channel.
I had
Yes,
that written,
that I thought
written
was really
down
funny.
right here.
Yeah.
Just the look of the animals were great, and then the zebra, the young zebra, just eating the lion.
Yeah, just eating
and
the
the lion,
elderly
just like
lion.
That never not gets me.
It-
Like,
it-
that was
it's-
funny.
yeah, that
He
was
just very casually came over and took a bite out of him.
It was just very well
That was
executed.
Yeah, that was one of the
Oh, I
highlights
love
of the
that joke.
episode.
What do you guys think of Squiggy? So the reality show execs they need to they realize the show's getting stale, so they throw in a 70s star.
So people don't know who Squiggy is. He was one of the main
They
characters
don't
on
listen
Laverne
to
and
our
Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley podcast.
Right.
Laverne
Let me also podcast. He with Michael McKean. It was Lenny and Squiggy were like their weird greaser friends.
Yeah.
And so that's who that was. I think it was the only really popular thing that the actor David Lander ever did. And I guess
he was also the principal in Scary Movie.
well, yes, he was. Which is a reference because wasn't Henry
because
Winkler
Henry Winkler was the principal in Scream.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they took another 70s greaser.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a clever gag.
Yeah,
The movie's
it was-
awful. Scary Movie's
movie's
not
terrible.
Very funny.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing in Scary Movie.
That sounds like the funniest thing.
We
in
just
here.
saved you an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Okay, so they bring David Lander in as Squiggy, and I thought it was funny because he's a pretty random C-list celebrity, like
Yeah.
they always bring in for these
Right.
reality shows. Like the second reality show becomes celebrity, whatever, they always bring in people of that caliber.
Yeah, and he fit the show very well as a voice
Yeah.
actor because he has a funny, or Squiggy at least has a very funny voice and demeanor.
Right,
And
right.
it just fit very. It was just very funny just to hear him say exposition lines.
Yeah, but he didn't really do anything funny, and they kind of didn't
No,
really
he tased
comment on
Homer,
it.
and
Well,
it's
he tased Homer because he said, the executive said that the essence of drama is conflict, so he tases Homer.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting because this episode had zero conflict.
Zero conflict.
No drama whatsoever.
That's a good point. That's a really ironic
And I
point.
thought, oh, that's interesting that they're saying it in their own episode.
Yeah. So Squiggy doesn't work, and they literally say, "Well, that didn't work. Let's try something else." So really, Squiggy's whole thing was pointless.
He really
sorry,
doesn't
David
contribute
Lander.
anything.
We'll add another room on for free.
You were funny on that episode from Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That was 20 years ago.
So then they decide to pick up the house and drop it in the river. I like the animation where the helicopter picks up the house and rips it up, and the only thing that is still standing are the pipes and the bathtub. Like that was just a very subtle detail. That makes sense because, as Twister has taught me, the pipes run down at least 30 feet,
right.
and you're not going to pull it up with a helicopter.
Twister taught us a lot of things. We all fell in love with Bill Paxton a little bit more that day.
So they're dropped in a river, which apparently is the Amazon River.
Apparently. So they
all
don't
of a
say
sudden,
that at all.
Do they
all of a
say
sudden,
it?
no, there's no setup for this.
It's just way later on, they're like, you can't get cocktail sauce in the Amazon? And all three of us were like, what? The
Yeah, because
Amazon?
they're sitting at some picnic tables in a very temperate climate. It looks like just the woods. Like it looked like they were in Springfield.
Margie gets her groceries at Quickie Mart.
Well,
that
I'm
was
assuming
before.
I'm assuming the helicopter lifted up the house from Springfield and then
And
dropped
it-
him off
somewhere.
in the Amazon. But that's the
In a
problem.
couple
is-
minutes, that scene is-
yeah, it's very disorienting not knowing where you are, especially because at first when we meet this group of exiled old reality contestants,
Survivor
and my first thought was
cast-offs.
like, why don't they just walk home? Because
Right.
you think that you still have the sense that you're local.
Yeah,
So
it was
would've-
really, really unclear.
It probably would have helped a lot. I mean, maybe not enough, but it would have helped if we knew where we were. And if the animation looked like a jungle, it didn't look like a jungle.
Give
It
me a
looked like
funny sign.
No,
Give me a
it
funny
looked
sign
like
that
it looked
says...
like a national park.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me a funny sign that says, now entering the Amazon, funny tagline here.
Yeah.
Yeah, something.
Something.
And it
Give
would've-
me
and it would
any
have
idea.
Give me a bone here.
it would have upped the danger because once they realize they're floating on a house, they escape and the house just disintegrates and just is destroyed. And that's it. They
Yeah.
should have had a scene where they come up with a way to rescue themselves. It's very passive. They basically they just land in the river and then that's it. Like they might as well have just been taken out of their beds and
I mean, the
dropped
whole-
off in the middle of the jungle.
the whole
The whole
episode.
river thing has nothing
nothing
no
to do with
point.
anything.
That's symbolic of the whole episode. The whole episode, they're kind of being carried along by the river of, like, you know...
of mediocrity.
Yeah, of,
Wow.
mediocrity,
River of
of the
mediocrity.
screenwriter's mediocrity. And,
There you
you know, it's just, they're always being acted upon in this episode. There's no agency on behalf of the Simpsons in this
Right,
episode.
there's no reason for them to do anything because there's no stakes, there's no drama, there's no
Because
anything.
everything is happening to them, so this episode feels very...
Right.
There's a disconnect. There's emotional disconnect because, like, none of the characters make a decision for their own
No,
real
never. They should have
self-
at least engineered their own way out of the river.
Because it was
No one's
it's,
looking out for themselves in this episode.
the entire point of this episode is just, we need a place to live for a month, so let's do this reality show.
Yeah.
There's no reason to do the reality show. Like, they don't want
Outside
something
of-
from the reality show. It's
Yeah.
just, we need a place to live. So this is it.
I was gonna save this for the end of the once we finish.
Well,
the
you
whole
do it
plot,
now.
but I'm gonna talk about it now. See, it's funny because I was really onto this episode. Like I said, it was really funny.
Yeah.
And I was giving it the second half. I was giving more credit because the first half was so strong. And just by talking to you guys this whole time, I realized, man, it really was.
No,
like,
this was
I
not
knew
a
there
good
was no
episode.
story, but. It's now I'm realizing how fundamentally broken that makes the whole thing.
Yeah.
So
It's not a good episode with a lot of good jokes.
The
Like-
big problem is there's no arc. There's no
story.
yeah,
There's nothing.
Nothing.
There's nothing. It's just a bunch of jokes.
And here's the thing. So you need them. Let's just dumb it down and say they need a moral. They need a lesson to learn. Not in terms of an arc. So at the end of the episode, they should have gotten something out of the experience. Now,
They should be changed in some way.
So one way I came up with.
I don't even think that they need to have like a moral. They just need to want something
so-
and either get it or not
Yeah,
get
That's
it.
what I
that-
mean.
yeah,
And so
I agree with that.
the perfect way I thought, the perfect arc, the crutch that they could have had was they were unhappy with the way their life is. Because then the idea of, well, here's a completely different life. Now that's
Right.
relevant. And then at the end of the episode, it ends with this weird thing where they're just spraying each other with the hose. This is when I realized there was no arc because I was like, wait, why are they spraying with each? What does this have to do with anything else? If
didn't.
they were unhappy with their lives, then they would go, oh, it's the simple things in life. This is what I mean by a moral.
Right, yeah,
Where they
but that would make sense.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, see, all you need to do is spray dad with the hose in the backyard. And like, this is all
Like, we don't need fancy skybox seats or even
And
fancy
so
Victorian
that's
houses.
What I'm saying is you have I wonder if this was maybe even planned. You have the DNA for the arc in that first act.
Right.
The first act is about classism and the Skybox,
Yeah.
that should have tied into the fact that then they go to the opposite, to the
was
period
so surprised that
1895.
it didn't tie in at all.
I mean,
It's like, look, you're watching hockey with like caviar and peacocks, and you're in the Skybox,
Yeah.
and now you're in this period home where you don't even have electricity. That's a really good dichotomy that they don't even mention.
Yeah,
Well,
they
and-
don't do anything with it.
I thought for a second like maybe this was to tie it back to the classism commentary in the first part of the episode. Like maybe like they're making some kind of commentary on like the shitty culturalness of reality TV, but I don't really.
The
They
lowbrow.
don't. I would say do they make a lot of cheap jabs at it, but
Yeah.
they don't. It's just like reality TV's dumb. That's
Yeah.
it. It's about as deep as it gets, and it's not very.
Yeah.
And it's a
satisfying.
shame because
Not very biting.
it's very shallow, and it's a shame because it looks like that's why they sacrifice any story or arc and anything, because
Yes.
they really wanted to hammer that point home, and they didn't
Really
care about
does.
anything else. Actually, you know what I said? A good arc would be if they were unhappy with the way. Fuck that. How about this? How about they're just again? This is a little ahead of its time because it's before the gadget and smartphone age. But what if they're just too obsessed with the modernities? What is that?
Modernity.
Modernities.
Modern amenities.
Like modernity leave.
Yeah, modernity, of course.
Yeah,
Called amenities.
they were obsessed with that, and because then the Skybox
Yeah.
Act 1 really hammers that home, where you can't just watch hockey, you actually have to have all this extra stuff.
Hockey's not-
and they're
hockey's
playing-
not good without sushi.
Yeah, and like
Like-
Bart's,
Yeah, right.
Bart's playing a hockey game on his Game Boy instead of watching the hockey game that he's at. Stuff like that, because then you have this the 1895 house premise is the opposite of that.
Right, it
which
takes
is-
strips all of that away.
There's your-
Even the little things they do have
Yeah.
are gone.
That's stakes. That's
Yeah.
story.
And they have to do it like fuck the termites. You don't need the termites. Something else, like for some reason they need to get out of the house, but like they should need to. The only way to get back into their house, they have to win this reality show competition.
Yeah, yeah.
Like because there's like
They need to win.
What does it matter? Like they should have just been like, oh fuck this, and just walked out of the house, and then they would have been in the same
Yeah,
exact
you're right.
position they were
There
5
should have
minutes
been
ago.
a reason they really needed
They did
to.
not need to do the reality show.
Yeah.
It was just a convenient way to live in a house for
That's
a
a
month.
really good way. They should have made a reality show competition.
Yeah.
Maybe they were going. Maybe they were going against the Flanderses or somebody.
Yeah.
In another 1895 house.
So I gotta kind of ask an overarching meta question here, though. Like, how many times during when you guys record these podcasts, do you just kind of end up rewriting the episodes? Like, well, it should have just been like.
A fair amount of time.
It's in a way, it's not fair of us to do because it's hindsight, but it's really more. We're just pointing out.
I mean, honestly, it's a form of
The
criticism. Don't get
missteps,
me wrong.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
picking apart. Like, this
Just
is what could have
with,
been.
with
like,
minor changes,
Yeah.
it probably could have been a stronger
And our,
episode.
if whatever we're saying would be a first draft, where then you need to go and actually like write it. We're not
Yeah.
claiming to write the episode,
No,
but
no.
that just shows you that why they needed to spend more time in the
Yeah,
writers'
yeah,
room
exactly.
to get it.
Right.
Yeah, again, the DNA was there. I almost wonder if they in an earlier draft they were trying to make this connection because the whole Skybox, like, it's there. All you need to
Yeah.
do is tie it in
just
together
have to
a little
connect
bit better.
those dots.
Yeah, the dots are there. Just connect them.
Yeah, just connect them.
Just draw a line.
Yeah.
there's no real through line in this episode. And
No,
it's
not
very
at all.
frustrating.
Not at
So
all.
let's wrap it up real quick. There was another delivery I really. Hank Azaria is a reality show producer. I actually liked his delivery as of most of the episode. He made his lines work. There was another one where he's like, they can't interfere with the Simpsons because it's period, so they can't have any of their lunch in the Amazon.
Yeah. Oh,
so he
right.
goes, burn the
Burn-
leftovers. Don't even give them the leftovers. Burn everything.
Yeah,
Oh
right,
no,
right.
he goes, burn the leftovers. Leave nothing.
Yeah.
It was a great Hank Azaria line.
Good delivery.
Good scorched earth.
Oh, I hated Homer crying obnoxiously. That's like my new over-explaining angry whisper. He does it like 2 or 3 times in this episode, where he just like bawls. Like the first time it's about a latte, and then he does it another time.
Oh, the
with
latte thing
Amazon.
was awful. Yeah. That was in Act 2, I
Yeah,
think.
and he's just
really
like
hated that.
crying obnoxiously, and then he stops.
Just
and he
like,
goes,
where's that guy with my latte?
it's even more grating
Yeah, than that moment
than
just
the
was when I just did it.
over-explaining angry whisper.
Yeah, it's horrible. I
The
could
and
not stand
when he
it.
does in the jungle, he just suddenly stops and he moves on. He's like, well, anyway. I was
Yeah.
like, ugh.
Is that the point when he just goes, that Lenny sure had a crazy apartment? Like, as just a reference for
yeah.
how far they've come, I guess. In the
they've
single
done that
episode?
joke
Well,
a
this is
lot
what-
too.
Yeah.
They've done that where they go, hey, remember the earlier
I don't
episode?
really
This and
like
the-
those.
No, I don't like them either.
I
Sometimes.
like that
It
joke.
depends
You like
on-
that joke?
I like that
It
joke. I
depends
wrote
on
it
who
down.
likes that
I
joke.
like that joke. But I mentioned earlier, I like the Lenny domicile jokes.
Yeah,
I like
right,
that running theme.
You're on notice as being a Lenny fan.
I'm not Lenny.
But not a Squiggy fan.
Not a Squiggy
Huh?
fan?
Oh, I get it.
Yeah, see, different
Oh, I
Lenny.
see what you did there.
Yeah, 2 Lennys.
That was a bit of a good stretch.
Oh, there was a gag I did like, and so the outcasts fight the reality show crew, and Marge and Lisa do a very innocent.
Yeah, we
like,
had to
Lisa,
mention this.
Yeah, Lisa does that. What's the name for that? Where you get behind somebody and trip them over?
Oh God, what did you call that?
I don't know. Wait,
One person's behind another person,
and
and
then
then
Marge
a third person pushes
Marge
the person.
pushes the
Everyone knows
person
what we're
over
describing.
Lisa, but he then stumbles off a cliff and presumably
dies.
And then Marge and Lisa just look guilty.
Yeah.
That was very funny. That I don't think he dies. I think they show him in a later shot where he's just all beat up.
Oh really?
I missed that.
So, but it's just funny that Marge and Lisa kind of Britt killed the guy.
One of the people who suggested this episode pointed out that Marge and Lisa kill someone in this episode, and that was one of the reasons they wanted us to watch.
I mean, it could have been somebody else who was all beat up and tattered after the fight, but I think they show him in the crowd scene where he's okay.
It was funny in the moment, but I didn't see them later in the crowd scene, so yeah, it just looked like they accidentally manslaughtered somebody.
But it's funny because it's Marge and Lisa, and how innocent the innocent setup. So the absurdity of the joke is earned.
Right. That's all I've got.
So then it ends with so then they get back home. I guess the termites are out.
Yep.
We talked about how that Law and Order thing was kind of pointless.
Yeah.
So then they just end with them playing with the hose. And again, if there was an arc, this scene might have made sense. But to me, it just felt like out of nowhere.
It was basically like there's two extended endings. It's like let's watch Law and Order and then let's play.
Yeah,
with
I thought
the
the Law and
hose.
Order was going to be the end, and then they go to the hose. And
so weird.
It felt
And
like the ending to a different episode.
Yeah.
See, I disagree fully. This
okay.
to me felt like a very spot on, and spot on means I liked it. I didn't like it, but I thought it was at least a commentary on the episode stuff. I thought at least was kind of in a very abstract way. It was just like, we just strung a lot of random things together for the past 20 minutes. And
So we're gonna keep stringing more random things on.
Is that what it was? It was purposely not having anything to do with anything. This whole hose gag with Homer.
It was just, this is about nothing. Like
I gotta say, I've already been rewriting the episode in my head, and now I just assume like, it was a commentary on the class thing. Like they could live like you were saying before. Like I don't even remember what it was actually.
Yeah, if they were obsessed with the modernities of life, and then they realize, we can just have fun with a hose, then you have an arc. You have point A, point B, and there's some difference between the two.
Yeah. But with the whole episode, there's none of that in the episode really, and so for the episode to end like that, I was like, well, at least they're consistent.
So basically, you're saying they just like, well, this is shit. So let's just go dive.
Let's keep making.
I mean, I think you're putting a few words in my mouth there, Zach. But
that's exactly what I heard.
Nick says that this episode was the greatest thing ever, and that seasons 1 through 8 should be burned and taken away from all humanity.
End quote.
End quote. I'm out. Drop the mic. Nick is done for the day.
Why is the guy from Laverne and Shirley living in our house?
'Cause nobody's watching you clowns. If you was to ask me, you're all too calm and happy. The essence of drama is conflict. That's why they gave me this taser.
Yeah, so you guys have anything else you want to say about this episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron, you summed it up for us. Okay, so it is time to rank this episode on our 4-factor test here. We're looking at the humor, the integrity, and the production, and the originality of the episode. We're going to rank it from 0 to 5. So let's put 2 minutes on the clock. And there we go.
Actually, it's a period 1895 time.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Mike Wallace.
Okay, so let's 0 to 5, 2.5 being average. Humor of this episode. We'll start with Nick. Nick, what do you think about this episode? The humor.
So 3?
Yeah.
3. Wow. Okay. Jack, what do you got?
Man, like I said, I was really on board for saying this was the funniest episode we've watched so far. But that's
no way.
Now that we've dissected the second half, it's really all right.
You
so I'm
you
gonna
thought
say
all the way through this was the funniest episode we've watched so far?
No, but I was so happy with the
before
first
we started
half.
talking. Before we started talking,
I was so happy with the first half that the second half faults didn't really affect me that much.
Okay,
And now
but now that we've teased them out,
so
okay.
look, I'm gonna say the first act is like a 4.5 maybe. So then we're gonna take away. I'll go 3. I'll also go 3.
I'm gonna say 2. I really. A lot of the things that you guys liked, I didn't really like. Pretty much the first act is all I liked.
But it was really good first act.
I know,
it
that's
was probably
why-
our strongest first act, even more so than
Split it in thirds. That's 1.6 whatever. I'll give it a couple of bonus points. We round up to 2. So I'm gonna go 2.
Dan, it's on.
Okay, so the integrity of the episode. Nick, what do you think there? Mr. Integrity, Nick Zurko.
I'd say 1.5.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, very little integrity in this episode, which is part of what I find what for me makes it so funny. Because it's just like you just focus on the jokes. They weren't really trying to do have any emotional stakes in this episode. And
Yeah, there's no emotion in this episode at all.
No.
So what do you think, Jack?
I mean, there's no jerk-ass Homer, which is always a point, extra
Always a
point for
plus.
me. There was those 2 instances of obnoxious crying Homer, so that's a little less. There was some great Marge jokes. I could go 3. I think I'm going to go 2.5 though.
Yeah, I don't have a strong opinion one way or the other. I'm going to say 2.5 now, but I may knock it down to a 2. Okay, the production of the episode. Nick?
2.5.
Straight down the middle.
Yeah, pretty much.
What do you think? I don't particularly remember a lot
I
of
liked
stuff.
the Terminator animation. I liked all the Skybox animations. I liked when the helicopter picked up the house. Although I guess this is where we'll take points away for the Amazon looking like Prospect Park.
Yeah, right.
So 3.
Yeah, I'm going to go right down the middle on this one, too. 2.5. I got nothing. Okay, finally, our originality.
Well, I mean,
Looking
the
at
fact of
Nick.
this episode...
So it's also not just how original, but also the storytelling itself and the structure of the episode.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously this episode is, like, pure pop culture pop culture commentary, so in terms of originality, you gotta go down the middle again, 2.5.
Jack, what do you think?
In terms of actual literal originality, I think it was kind of cool and a little ahead of its time, or of its time at least, to take down reality TV. But structurally speaking, it was a mess. There was no story. There was no story.
No story at all.
That gives it a 0. I'll give it a 1.5, and that's generous because it was a decent original idea. 1.5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 1. Just because I think it was a lot of lazy jokes just strung together, a lot of just references.
Yeah,
like,
I could see myself giving it a 1, if not less. I'm not opposed to you giving it a 1.
Yeah, okay.
I'm so opposed.
I think from now on...
Damn opposed. Damn opposed. Okay, so we have crunched our numbers, and Helter Shelter has ranked as a slightly better episode than Goo Goo Gai Pan and a slightly worse episode than Simpsons Safari. I feel like neither of us are pretty happy with that, Jack.
I'm not happy with that either.
It's funny as Simpsons Safari also had a strong first act, and that's what saved it from worse in the rankings. But I think this first act was by far the strongest first act we've seen humor-wise.
Yeah.
So I kind of wish it was a little bit higher, but the rest of the episode was such a mess. It's whatever. The numbers don't lie. It's definitely better than Goo Goo Gai Pan.
Yeah.
I like Goo Goo Gai Pan, but that's for conversation for another day.
You weren't on that episode,
Yeah,
so your
I was
input is irrelevant.
I don't know. I think it should be a little lower, but whatever. That's where it is. And you can check that ranking out on wepodcast.com. And that's where you can go to suggest episodes. If you have an episode that you would like to make us watch, you can do that on our forum at wepodcast.com. As we said earlier, check out our subreddit, which links are on.
Yeah, somebody just made some really fun fan art, a menu for our Bluto's
Bluto's North Dakotan bathroom tofurkey
chain. It was really well done. So there's fun stuff like that in the Reddit.
Yeah.
And
and there can be whatever you want.
Whatever. Yeah, we had that South Park discussion.
Mm-hmm.
We had that thing where me and you just were bored at work clearly on a Friday. And
yes, that's exactly what it was.
Wait, Jack, you were bored at our job. Hold on.
Oh,
I guess the calls to make.
So check out.
Jack and I work together, by the way, but it hasn't been clear.
Yes.
If you haven't put together the clues,
We've dropped the Easter eggs we've dropped throughout this episode.
So wepodcast.com. Check it out. That's where you can do a lot of things and click through the Amazon links. Woohoo! Classic Simpsons Trivia. That's coming up in Brooklyn. Actually, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, it is today. But it's the first
get in
Thursday
the
of every
car
month.
now. Get going.
Go, get there. Williamsburg, look it up. Just Google Woohoo Classic Simpsons Trivia Brooklyn. You can find out more information about that. And in October is our costume contest. So that should be a fun one to come to. If you're in the area and you've never come, you should check it out. And we want to thank Nick for being our guest here today.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen.
Jack, I think we had such a good time with Nick. Why don't we have him back next week?
What?
Very few people get the double invite.
We're giving him the future vapors.
Oh my! Oh my!
I've actually traveled back in time from that episode, and it was a very good one.
We were on fire.
So, Nick, well, we're happy to have you back next week. What episode do you want to watch?
I'm going with The Blue and the Gray from season 22, episode 13.
Ooh, the Blue and the Gray.
Don't look forward to it.
I don't know what that is. It sounds gray. I don't know.
Or blue.
Okay, so thanks, everybody. And now the only thing left to do is to close the show with our Cut All This submission from a listener. If you don't know what we're talking about, we like you guys to end the show, at least for this summer, by saying cut all this in your whatever you want. Yeah. You go to our website, wepodcast.com. There's a little more information. You can submit them through there. So, Jack, who is our cat submission today?
Our cat comes from Margarita, so take it away.
All right.
Hey guys, just want to congratulate you on worst episode ever, a show about the worst Simpsons episodes. What could possibly go wrong? Possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's ever gone wrong. Cut all this.